Today I want to share with you how to quick pickle vegetable scraps for a tasty treat and a no-waste kitchen. Hi sweet friends, I'm Mary and welcome to Mary's Nest, where I teach traditional cooking skills for making nutrient-dense foods like bone broth, ferment, sourdough, and more. So if you enjoy learning about those things, consider subscribing to my channel and don't forget to click on the little notification bell below. That'll let you know every time I release a new video. Quick pickling vegetables is a very easy thing to do, and it's a great way to make use of any vegetable scraps that you have. Now the difference between making quick pickled vegetables and regular pickled vegetables is that with a quick pickle, you don't have to cook all the vegetables in your brine first. All you do is pack your jar with your veggies and then pour a hot brine into your jar over your veggies. And then all you do is let your jar of veggies with the brine in it cool for about an hour, put the lid on, and refrigerate it. And if you can wait till the next day, they'll be perfect. But if you can't wait that long, at least let them chill about 4 hours, and then you can enjoy them. Now, when you hear the term quick pickles, you may have also heard them referred to as refrigerator pickles. And the word pickles refers to any vegetable that you're pickling. And the reason that they're called refrigerator pickles is because you put them in your refrigerator. But if you ever want to learn how to make quick pickles that you then water bath can, which makes them shelf stable so that you don't have to put them in your refrigerator, I have a video where I show you how to do that in detail, step by step, perfect for the beginner. And I'll be sure to link to that in the iCards and in the description below. Now let's go over the ingredients that you're going to need to make the brine to quick pickle your vegetables. And in this case, to quick pickle our vegetable scraps. But you don't need to write anything down. Just be sure to open the description underneath this video. You'll see the word recipe. Click on that link. It'll take you over to my website, same name as my YouTube channel, Mary's Nest, where you can read the recipe online or print it out. Now today, what I'm going to share with you is the master recipe for making a pickling brine. And then I'm going to talk to you about the little variation that I like to add. But in the corresponding recipe to this video, I'll also share with you some different varieties of pickling brines that you can make to give your vegetables or vegetable scraps some different flavors. You can make a Mediterranean brine, you can make a Mexican brine, you can make a Szechuan brine. There's a whole host of brines that you can make, pickling brines that you can make for your veggies. And I'll have those various options in the printed recipe. Now we are going to be using vinegar to make our brine, so you want to make sure that you have a non-reactive saucepan. What I've got here is a stainless steel saucepan. You can also use an enameled saucepan or an enameled cast iron saucepan, but you want something that doesn't react with acids, so you would want to avoid using aluminum cookware. Now we're going to need 2 cups of vinegar. Now what I've got here is just a white vinegar. I like to use a white vinegar because it really lets all the other flavors shine through. But you can use any vinegar that you want. You could use this white vinegar, you could use wine vinegar, you could use apple cider vinegar, you could even use your own homemade apple cider vinegar, but only use that if you're not planning on water bath canning your pickled vegetables. And the reason is when you water bath can something, you need to have a specific acidity level, which is guaranteed with vinegars that come from the store and guarantee that particular acidity level, versus something that's homemade, which we don't know exactly what the acidity level is. So 2 cups vinegar and 1 cup water. And next you're going to want 1 tablespoon of pickling and canning salt. Now the pickling and canning salt is nice because it's just salt, so it doesn't interfere with any of the other flavors in the pickling process, and just like the white vinegar, allows for all the other flavors to come through. Now canning and pickling salt is required if you're canning, but I generally just like to use it when I am pickling because it allows for a very pure flavor in my pickled final product. But if you're not planning on canning your pickled vegetables, you can definitely use any type of sea salt. You can use the Celtic gray sea salt, you could use the Himalayan pink sea salt, any salt that you like. And you'll just want to make sure you have the fine ground version of that salt that you like to use, and you're going to need 1 tablespoon. So the vinegar, the water, and the salt is what is going to give you a nice tangy brine. But what if you want to make this a sweeter brine? Then you're going to want to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now what I've got here is just a white organic sugar, but you can use any type of sweetener that you like. I'm using white sugar because we're really not using a lot. We're just using 2 tablespoons. But you could also use sucanat, which is the dried cane juice that has all of the nice minerals still intact in the sugar. You could also use maple sugar. You could use maple syrup. I wouldn't recommend honey because we are going to be heating the brine, and we wouldn't want to destroy the nice natural nutrients that are in honey. And just keep in mind, if you decide to use the sucanat, which is the dried cane juice, dried sugar cane juice, or if you decide to use maple sugar or maple syrup, it will make your brine a little darker, but it doesn't affect the flavor in terms of the sweetness. It'll still add lovely flavor. So with just salt, it's your basic tangy brine, and then if you go ahead and add the 2 tablespoons of sugar, you'll have your nice sweetened brine. And this is basically enough brine to make a quart-sized jar of pickled vegetables or pickled vegetable scraps. Or if you don't have a quart-sized jar, you can use 2 pint-sized jars. Now to this basic brine, and I'm going to do a sweetened brine, to this basic sweetened brine, I like to add a tablespoon of pickling spice. It just adds a wonderful flavor. And then I also like to add a teaspoon of red pepper flakes just to spice things up a little bit. But again, these are totally optional. But in that printed recipe, I'll talk about some of the other additions that you can add to change up this basic formula. You can do the Mediterranean brine by adding some oregano, some basil, other Italian herbs and spices. You can do a Mexican version with some jalapeno. You can do a Szechuan version, adding maybe some ginger and some Chinese 5-spice powder. So there's a lot of options available to you, so you're never going to get bored of pickled vegetables or even pickled vegetable scraps. Now for your vegetable scraps, or even just regular vegetables if you're using those, you're going to need about 2 pounds to fill your quart-sized jar or your 2 pint-sized jar. And usually what I do is I go through my crisper and I see what might be kind of getting a little off its prime, or little bits and bobs of things I have that I'm not really sure how I would use in a recipe, and so on and so forth, and basically cleaning out the crisper and deciding, okay, this will be something that'll be good to pickle. Now, for example, I have a red onion here. It's starting to get some spots. I have a yellow onion. It's starting to sprout. I've got some carrots, little bits of carrots. These things could certainly go in a scrap bag that I would save to use to make bone broth. Also like the celery leaves and some of the celery. They could all go into the bone broth bag. But given that it's summer, and this is really a delightful time to enjoy pickled vegetables, I'm going to use them today. Other things that don't necessarily lend themselves well to going into a scrap bag for soups or for making bone broth and so on and so forth, those things I'm definitely putting into my jar for pickling. I've got some cauliflower here. I've got some green beans, a little past their prime. These are left over. I had some extra green beans. In a previous video, I showed you how to pickle green beans and also how to water bath can them, if that's something that interests you. So I've got some of that. I've got some snow peas, or are they snow peas? Or I think that's what they're called. I've also got a jalapeno from my garden, sort of in between red and green there. And I've got some ginger that was just starting to look a little dried up. I don't know if we'll use this or not, but we might. I've got some garlic cloves here. These were just sort of little ones that were sort of on the last of a bulb of garlic I had. I've got some cabbage here. This is some green cabbage. I was making a Chinese chicken salad, so I've got that, a little bit of extra left over, some radishes. So just a whole host of things. As you see, I think I've got some spring onions under here too. Yeah, that were just sort of getting a little soft in my refrigerator. And so I said, well, those will be perfect to add to the vegetable scrap collection as well. And something I want to mention about these green onions, or if you have like the bottom root, so to speak, of the celery or different things like that, I have a video where I show you how to make, I think it's about 10 vegetables that you can basically grow from scraps that you might have on hand. So I'll be sure to link to that in the iCards and in the description below. You might find that interesting. Now, I just want to give you a little tip when it comes to making quick pickles, specifically when you have some harder vegetables like carrots, radishes, we've got some cauliflower here. We're not going to be cooking this on the stovetop. That's the whole point of the concept of a quick pickle. But you don't want them to stay very hard. And sure, you want it all to be nice and crisp, and it will. That's another thing the pickling salt will help with. When you use just salt, it helps encourage the vegetables to stay crisp. But the secret is to slice your really hard vegetables like the carrot thinly. Don't cut them too thick, because then the rest of the vegetables will soften up and be very palatable, and the carrots or the radish or the cauliflower might be extremely hard and crunchy to the point of not necessarily being crisp like everything else, but just kind of hard and crunchy. And you want to get everything to be a similar crisp texture, but not hard or crunchy texture. Now let's go ahead and make our brine. I've got my 1 cup of water. I'll go ahead and put that into my saucepan, my 2 cups of vinegar, my white vinegar, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in my salt, and we got the sugar. It's going to be tasty. And the pickling spice. Everything goes in together, and some red pepper flakes for that little bit of kick. Now I'm going to turn this up to high, and we just want to bring this up to a boil. While our brine is coming up to a boil, we'll go ahead and start to slice up our vegetable scraps and pack our jar with them. So for some of our harder vegetables, this is the thinness that you want to slice them at. And don't worry, it's not an exact science, just do the best that you can. And the tails and the stem are totally fine to go ahead and add into your jar. You can just chop your little stem up like that, and go ahead and put it right in. Nothing goes to waste. For things like the celery leaves and whatnot, I'm just going to give a rough chop, nothing fancy. Well, my brine's come up to a boil, so I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on, and then I'm just going to turn this down to low and keep it nice and warm and cozy while we finish filling our jar with veggies. Now, when it comes to the cabbage, you can slice it into thin strips, you can chop it into little pieces. It's really a matter of whatever way you like it. I think to just sort of keep everything about the same size, I'm going to go ahead and chop it into pieces. And if you are using cabbage, when you go to chop it up, do not discard the core. You want to just chop the core up and throw it right into your jar. That's the whole point of this. We're using scraps. Next, I'm going to go ahead and cut up some of these string beans into bite-sized pieces. And something I have to tell you that's so nice about just kind of using a little mishmash of your various bits and bobs out of your crisper, no one is ever going to think that these were scraps. And what's nice is you can make this as a little side dish. You can put this as a topping on sandwiches. There's a lot that you can do with pickled vegetables. They're just so tasty. I think they're always welcome at the table, especially during the summer. They're so refreshing. And since cauliflower is hard, kind of like the carrots and the radishes, I'm just going to slice this up thin too. I'm just going to alternate some of these veggie scraps as I put them in the jar to make it look pretty. This is also a great way to use sort of some end of summer produce from your garden or things you may pick up at the farmer's market. But if you are growing things, one carrot got away from me. If you are growing things and you've got like green tomatoes, those are great to pickle like this. So there's a lot that you can do. Just to sort of save up any little scraps that you have from your garden and put together a pickle like this. People are going to love this. It's delicious. For the sugar snap peas, I think I called them snow peas earlier. These are actually sugar snap peas. And I think for these, I'm just going to cut them in half. You could even probably leave them whole, but I think they might just be nicer cut in half. The pea part will probably come out a little, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and chop up this white onion. Now, the peels, I am going to save that, and I'm going to put, or save them. I am going to go ahead and put those in my bone broth scrap bag, because onion peels, garlic peels, they're very rich in nutrients, very similar to the onion and or the garlic. And for the white onion, I'm just doing a basic dice, nothing fancy. I'm also going to chop up some of these small garlic cloves, and just like with the onion skins, I'm going to save those garlic skins for my scrap bag. Well, I've got my jar all packed, and you really want to pack this tightly, and you want to go right up to the almost to the rim of the jar, because once you start adding in your brine, everything will start floating, and you want to make sure that you get the most bang for your buck, so to speak, and that you get as much packed in your jar as possible. Well, let me remove this lid here. Oh, the brine is beautiful and piping hot. Now, if you have a funnel, this works great for this job. Certainly, if you're just using your ladle and you have a steady hand, you should be fine if you don't have the funnel. But what I'm going to do is just start funneling our wonderful brine down into our jar. Now you want to go ahead and fill your jar right up to the rim with as much brine as you can fit in here. You want everything covered and submerged. Now, if you have a little bit of brine left over, don't worry, you can refrigerate it and you can just add it to the next batch of brine that you make. Now what you want to do next is take the lid that goes with your jar and just put it on loosely. And you want to allow this to cool down to room temperature. It's going to probably take about an hour. Once it's cooled down to room temperature, just tighten the lid and then go ahead and pop this into your refrigerator. You want this to cool for at least 4 hours, but if you can wait till overnight, it'll be even better, because all of the vegetables will have really absorbed the brine, and it's going to be an extremely tasty quick pickle. Now, if you'd like to learn how to make more pickles, both traditional pickles like bread and butter pickles, or more quick pickles, and even ferments like a wonderful Italian giardiniera, which is a beautiful vegetable mix, be sure to click on this video over here, where I have a whole playlist of all sorts of pickled and fermented vegetables. And I'll see you over there in my Texas Hill Country kitchen. Love and God bless.